Hello, lore heads, and welcome to the League, exploring the League of Legends lore from A to Z. My name is Rebecca.
And I'm John.
My name is Mark.
Today we're talking about Shepard of Soulds, Yorick, who was released June 22nd, 2011. And it's Shepard of Soulds, not the Shepard of Soulds.
Oh.
I don't know why, but it bothers me when they do that. But
No, yeah, it stuck out. It sounds wrong.
It sounds weird.
I assumed you had said it wrong, but
nope, I
that's
did
on
it
me
right.
for not trusting.
Maybe it's because,
fucking
he was part of a group of shepherds. So he wasn't the shepherd, he was just a shepherd.
Then it would be a Shepard of Souls, wouldn't it?
But that's weird, you just gotta, if you're one of many, you're
I
just
kinda
like,
would've-
I'm shepherd
I,
of souls.
That's what I say. I don't say I'm a writer, I say I'm writer.
I'm writer.
I podcast.
of
Well,
books,
I podcast
of words.
Yeah.
I'm a head of lore. Oh wait, no, not A. I'm just head.
head of lore. We all are head of lore.
Yeah.
I don't think that's any of us.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, I
gonna be
guess
honest.
Oh.
no, not at all. I guess to be fair, it's better than his previous subtitle, which was just the Grave Digger. That's a pretty weak fucking one.
Yeah. Yeah, this Yorick is a very different Yorick than initially released.
Interesting. I'm
True.
excited to hear about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be.
Okay. He dug graves, I bet.
Oh,
That's
whatever.
kind of what he
He
does
did
now.
do that.
But
Did you just fucking read ahead?
Right,
You're not supposed to read the
fucking-
old lore.
I don't know. I mean, he was called the Grave Digger, so I thought maybe he
Oh,
digs
fuck.
graves.
Damn, I didn't even think about that when I was reading
I
it.
know.
I thought they were unrelated.
I didn't even have to go to college for this level of
Right.
intelligence. Anyway,
So
what's
what's
he
Yorick
sound
sound
like? I can't do this, so I'm going to go first. This is what he says when he sees a yordle. Oh, God. He's just a low voice, right? And I can't do it. I can't do a low voice.
You can do it.
Yours is an easy grave to dig, small one. That's as low as I get.
That's not true. I've heard you get lower.
Yours is an easy grave to dig, small one.
See, you fucking nailed it on the second one.
Yours. I don't know how to get lower than that.
Now that's a shepherd of souls, baby. I'm sorry, that's shepherd of souls,
Not
baby.
baby.
Jesus Christ! What? I'm not the Shepherd of Souls.
You're right. He is just kind of low and breathy. He's like you'll make a fine addition to my cloak.
Oh, that was good.
That's what it sounds like.
Fear not. I will make use of your corpse.
Oh, he's so quiet.
Oh,
You're whispering
really
that to
good.
me with some ASMR.
You really nailed that one.
Yeah, that quote makes me uncomfortable.
Why? He's being reassuring?
John.
You know? Oh, dude.
Mark, you pure bean. Took a way too
That
long
wasn't
to
the
realize.
Ethernet cable coming unplugged. That was,
Nope,
that was my moral Ethernet cable being unplugged. Or yours, I don't know.
I don't know if John has a moral Ethernet cable anymore. I snipped it when I married him.
That wire's been frayed for quite some time.
The cat's been chewing on it.
Anyway, should I? Oh, I guess on the universe page, he has a bio and a short story and some pretty old concept art, which just kind of looks like what Yorick used to look like.
Pretty much.
Sense.
It reminded me what he used to look like because I kind of forgot there. Yeah. Oh, I didn't put
I'll
when he
never
was
forget
reworked.
that big hunk of...
Yeah? What, his big hump of
Oh,
what?
good point, yeah. Well, I was going to say shit, but I feel like that was kind of mean. I just mean he was very... I always found his model very ugly. He's a big blob of brown.
I know.
Yeah.
The
Lumbered
way,
around.
the way you started it, though, sounded so appealing. I'll never forget that big hunk of...
A big hunk
Shit.
of beef.
Yeah.
Mark's
now
gonna
he's...
make use of that corpse.
Now he's a big hunk of beef. Anyway, I'll go through the bio. We good?
By John O'Brien.
John O'Brien. Yorick. Not a normal boy in the Blessed Isles. They make a
No.
point. No. Even as a boy, he was a weirdo freak. He was basically the kid in The Sixth Sense. That's all I could think about the entire time I was reading his bio. He
Yeah.
could see dead people.
Paranorman is a good one, too.
Oh, yeah, Paranorman. That's a good one. Yeah, Yorick, as a boy, could see and hear dead people, which everyone thought was very strange. And I have to ask, do y'all know where you fucking live? And also, no one believed him. Where are you that you think that this is, one, strange, and two, impossible?
Right? Like, you live in a place that has water that can bring people back from the dead. You've never...
You're in just Ruterra in general. People don't die because they don't fucking feel like it that Thursday. Like, I don't know. Anyway, that really bothered me. Anyway, he learned to help the lost spirits, which was a lonely job because they were his only friends, and then he always had to say goodbye to them. I love this little, like, creepy paranorman Yorick as a boy, and I want more of it.
It's very Spiritfarer.
That's what I was thinking too, yeah.
You spend so long befriending the creatures, and then you have to... You're basically the ferry person to the underworld. You've taken over for... Charon. I don't actually know how to pronounce it.
Karen. Yeah.
You've taken over for them, and when creatures get there, you need to do all these favors for them so that they're ready for their trip to the afterlife. But you get to know them and who they were in life, and
then they move
on
one
by one. You have to say goodbye. It's a great game, though. Highly recommend.
It does literally sound like Yorick Simulator, is what you're describing here.
Right?
A little bit. A little cuter and cozier, though, I think. Anyway, a monastery called the Brethren of the Dusk heard about this creepy little boy, though, and they were like, that's my jam. And the monks asked Yorick to join. He did, obviously. The monks there all carry a spade as a symbol of their duty for performing burial rites, because they were like, we need to explain why Yorick has a shovel.
Yeah.
Also, I think they
Ding,
use
ding,
them. Or they don't. I like the idea of everyone's sitting to breakfast and they all have to find a spot to put their shovel on, like, these big breakfast tables.
They just use them for everything.
Oh, maybe they use them as their spoons.
Shovel, right?
Yeah, they're all eating.
Hand me some more shovel porridge, Papa.
There's no papas. You're only monks. Okay, I gotta figure out where I was. Okay, they also all wore a vial of water from the Blessed Isle Sacred Spring. This'll come in handy later.
For some people.
For some people.
More than others.
Yorick didn't fit in here either, though. I guess he's just a natural ghost talker, and all the monks at the monastery have struggled to understand the dead. I don't know. Maybe ask him.
Right?
About
it's
it.
Like...
Everyone's so fucking rude.
No one can be happy for each other.
No one
here.
can just be happy.
Yasuo's peers are like, oh, he's too good. Fucking Yorick's peers, oh, he's too good. Just fucking, just clap for each other every now and then.
Yeah. I'm sure he would help show you the ways of the dead or something.
Prop each other up.
Yeah.
Build people up.
Anyway, then came the moment where Viego threw his dead wife in the sacred water, blah, blah, blah. The black mist spread and killed everything. The monks all, screamed in pain and then ripped off their vials of water, and when they did, their souls joined the mist and they died. Yorick also heard a voice telling him to remove his vial, but he's not like the other monks. Nope, he's better. He didn't listen. He did learn it's the only thing keeping him alive in the Shadow Isles. Yorick found himself surrounded by all the dead and did a little bit to learn about Viego and how all of this happened. Soon he was able to speak to some of the spirits, and he realized that the bodies in graves that he had buried would, rise up and obey him, which is so great. Yorick's goal now is to free the dead in the Shadow Isles, so I am, so sure he's going to be, a huge part.
Yeah.
Of the ruination thing and the whole defeat of Viego.
Yeah, he's got a bone to pick. He's got an army of undead.
He lives
right
there. Yeah, surely he'll be a part
he'll
of
come
it.
back. Don't worry.
That's Yorick anyway.
Yeah. I like what they were setting up here.
That's how I felt about it afterwards.
Yeah, sure, right. It's really hard to even look at Yorick without knowing where everything kind of finishes. It
what
really
does he do
taints
now?
the reading of him. It's okay. I will say, to be fair, almost in defense of Rise of the Sentinels. Oh no, my internet is totally borked.
Yeah, we can hear you. We just can't see you move.
Okay.
Okay,
can we take a quick pause? I'm just going to try rejoining the call real quick.
Yeah. His internet is borked. Who says that?
It's Blade of the Ruined King. We're talking about the ruination, so.
That's fair.
Okay, is that We'll see if this is any better. Hold on one second. Let me
believe.
turn on the old camera.
The old camera.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. This seems a little more consistent already, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Sure.
Alright.
Yeah.
What was I? Oh yeah, I was about to defend the Rise of the Sentinels.
you were doing the
Rise of the
unthinkable.
Sentinels defense. I was on the precipice of death. In their defense, I think in like both of the pieces for him, as much as like the bio establishes that like stopping Viego is his big goal, what he really does with his time is not that. He really seems to just be kind of content to just kind of hang out and work on laying souls to rest. You know what I mean? Like,
I would agree, if not for one direct quote from his story with Alawi.
I think that the story with Alawi, like, it almost feels, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about like two pieces here. But I mean, for the most part, what has he been doing with his time? He's been hanging out with his ghouls. He's been building a massive graveyard. Every now and then he sends one wandering into the mist. Like, well, I hope that one does good. Anyway, back to, I mean, like, I think if he had had a lot more stuff that he was actively doing, I maybe would feel more frustrated with it. But, you know, when the bio ended that way, I was like, man, this is going to really suck. And then I read those two stories and I was like, I mean, how much was he really doing in the first place? It's hard to say, too, because the second one is like way later anyway, right? Like that's an addendum to Ruined King, so I don't know.
Yeah.
He's been doing this for fucking centuries.
Yeah.
I guess it feels more like he's trying to... It even says in the end of the bio that he's trying to free the souls in the Shadow Isles, which makes more sense to me. And now with, like, Viego being, I don't know, in stasis is where they left him, the Shadow Isles are still not okay. So, I guess... And I think I'm fine with him trying to figure out how to bring the Shadow Isles back. But hook him up with Maokai then.
Right?
Also, Mark is frozen while rubbing
friends.
his eye. I feel so bad. He looks so sad. Oh, there he is.
It's like trying to play League when the internet's being shit. It's just like, it's so frustrating. You'll have to
Summer is
excuse me.
disconnected.
Okay, I think we're back in the mix. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I think I don't forgive him.
No, I
John's
don't
not down.
either. I do agree, right? Like I don't know. I don't know. I do agree. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't genuinely think they were right to not include Yorick. I just think that, like, I guess what I'm trying to say more is that I wish that if they're going to go so hard on he wants to stop Viego, if he was more proactive around that in his other stories.
Yeah, he was very just as passive as
Listen,
you could possibly
he's
be.
been depressed lately. You know, it's a change of seasons.
How do you even tell in the shadow?
It's true.
Sure.
That's it. You're always depressed. Can he leave the Shadow Isles?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
He does a little bit.
He can a little bit.
Yeah, we mentioned the stories that are on Universe. There's also a newer story
Oh, yeah. I didn't read that one.
that happens after the Ruined King game, but before Sentinels, with Yorick and Alawi.
Okay.
And there's a lot of additional context in there.
Damn.
But
I'll say I don't feel like Yorick looks the way I would picture him if I had just read this bio and didn't know anything about the character. And then I looked at Yorick and I'm like, who's this fucking jacked
right,
dude?
Alawi even mentions that. She in this story, she specifically.
Alawi's constantly talking about.
Yeah,
She loves them big muscles.
She only has. She says in the story she has two ways of classifying people. I could break them in half, or I couldn't break them in half. And everyone else she had met in the story so far, like, I could break them in half. And she meets Yorick. It's like, oh, I couldn't break him in half.
Break him in half.
Yeah. You could say on the one hand that it's a metaphor for like human will and etc. But on the other hand, she is constantly like, this dude is yoked out.
Yeah, like he's fucking
She's
jacked.
like,
Yeah.
Which I
kinda
could see. Digging graves has gotta be-
because I think he could be a cool like foil to Thresh.
He would be, yeah.
Yeah, especially like, yeah, I mean, they kind of are. If they didn't have a rivalry before, they certainly do now after Thresh fucking yoinked that pendant, which we'll get into later.
And they both.
But
Sure. Well, like him and Thresh both were really isolated from their peers, right? Like that sucks. Like sucks for Yorick that he got recruited and then he got to the boarding school and they're like, actually, get bullied, son.
Yeah, fucking rude.
So that they went so differently could be, could be an interesting thing to get into.
You know what I found weird, and I shouldn't have found it weird.
Okay.
This should have been. It should have made perfect sense. They mentioned that the Brotherhood is from a different island. Now, obviously, this is called the Blessed Isles.
I know.
I never once thought of this
as multiple,
as like an archipelago or anything like that.
Yeah.
I assumed it was one massive island.
Yeah.
It feels that way. You're absolutely right. Because Yorick's from his own weird little island, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
I'm also really curious. So the ruination happens, right? Everyone instantly dies, and it was basically like a wave of spirits that sweeps over the islands, I guess. And it said, among the quieting screams of his brethren, Yorick alone could hear voices within the mist. Remove it. Join us. We will become one. And like, these spirits were just killed. How were they already like corrupted and trying to get other people to join them? Because I feel like whenever people first become spirits, they're like, fuck, I don't want to be a spirit. How did this happen? But it looks like some of those spirits were just like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm a spirit. I'm going to make everyone else a spirit too. Like the implication, because that voice, follows him forever. And that's the Maiden of the Mist that's following him.
Oh.
It just seems weird for the Maiden to already exist immediately after the ruination, because it's supposed to be like a culmination of souls too, just that create this Maiden, and she's a fucking.
I mean,
God, what's the word?
The Maiden is really not explained at all.
Yeah, they really don't do a lot to explain it.
They're more interested in his cape. They like his cape of mist way more than they like the Maiden.
They do. It's weird. Let's see. They. Oh no, he left.
He's trying to fix it again. We'll give him a sec.
Sorry, the whole thing just.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, it said in order to end the curse, he would be forced to use it, which, man, he's done so little. I feel like in that time.
I know. It's like he's trying to figure out what the curse is, but he's just sending his little ghouls to do it.
Right? Like, this is something that we'll get into a bit with the short story. But yeah, it's just like you have basically an immunity to the mist. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you can talk to the dead. That's literally your thing. But instead of going into the mist and talking to the dead to get some answers, he's sending these fucking corpses who he mentioned can hear. He didn't say anything about them being able to, like, talk. He said they're barely sentient. Like, what are they going to do? They can't ask questions. They just have to overhear a spirit and then bring it back and, I don't know, sign it to Yorick. I don't know what the fuck.
Was that Lassie? Viego's trapped in a locket? Right? Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know. It seems really silly at the end. I think the idea of him reviving the corpses is cool, like whatever. And in the Alawi story, it feels more realized, and that he's got like a literal almost army of them, mostly just doing like, I don't know, menial tasks or whatever. But then he would just like get one and be like, all right, off you go into the mist. Good luck,
this
buddy.
one comes back.
Right? See you in a decade or something. I don't know.
The rest
It
polish.
wasn't even like a good corpse, right? It wasn't like, oh, this guy was a real badass. I bet you this corpse will be good. It was some random dude who showed up and died.
So we had no attachment to that corpse, you know?
I guess that's
It's more
fair.
likely to just kind of throw it out there.
Yeah, because it would be a constant reminder of the fact that it could have saved his life.
Oh, maybe that's just it. We gotta get out of here. I almost kind of wish that was it. That
Right?
Yeah. I don't
They
know.
had, been more explicit there.
Yeah, I don't know.
But before we get into the short story, he is in the Ruination novel as well, which takes place before the short story. So I figured if we go timeline wise here, that might work.
Sure, yeah.
But in the Ruination novel, when Viego's on the island, he's kind of bringing like various masters of science and medicine basically to treat Isolde, and like one after another they come in and they're like, the fuck is this? She's dead and this dude's insane, like, no, fuck off, and just leave. And then they say that there's a young monk who's able to speak to spirits, and he has a conversation with Isolde, and he mentions things that only someone who actually knew Isolde would be able to know. He mentions Gwen. He has a good conversation with her, and he actually convinces Viego to leave the island. He convinces Viego that she's dead, and the best thing he can do is go and give her a proper burial. And Viego's on board with that. And then Thresh comes in and fucks everything up. But Yorick almost prevented the ruination here.
To be fair, he did also then cause the Rise of the Sentinels event to happen later. But, I guess they cancel each other out, maybe. Yeah, I remember really liking that bit in the book, actually. Not just for Yorick's part. It was nice to see him show up, but also for Viego, and that it made things feel a little more, I guess, sad that they ended up the way they did.
Yeah,
that there was this moment of, he could have done it right.
Yeah,
Right, so close.
Really highlights, Thresh's evilness too, which is always good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
And
works in
another,
a lot of ways.
Foil for Yorick here.
Yeah, they should really do more with those too. I know, I guess it's hard because Thresh already has a lot of people who don't like him. That
Right.
guy, man.
Thresh's nemesis with fucking everyone.
Yeah, but I do like the reflection of the two of them having such a similar upbringing, but becoming two completely different people because of it. It's similar to the reflection of Lucian and Viego, which they liked to play with. So
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Also here is Roots of Ruin. We don't actually learn anything new about Yorick here. It just kind of tells us the same shit over again, but he's on it.
He's there.
He's there.
He's on the board.
And then we've got Last Rites by John O'Brien.
Okay. Yeah. So this opens with a shipwrecked sailor who's dying on the shores of the Shadow Isles, and Yorick has come upon him. And, he wants to see if he can help this guy. So he picks him up and he carts him back to his monastery. And the whole time, the Black Mist is sort of trying to encroach upon this dying man, but Yorick's water kind of keeps it off. And there's this voice that's kind of constantly whispering in his ear, doing this sort of almost like devil on the shoulder thing, like, you're never going to save him, Yorick. Why bother? I don't know why it sounds like that.
You'll never be nothing, kid.
Right. So Yorick, he starts trying to treat the guy, but he's trying to use these bandages that are just completely rotted away. It's almost like he doesn't, I don't know what his deal is exactly in this instance, if he's just going through the motions, but he kind of realizes that the only thing he could do to save this guy would be to use some of this water, and is tempted to do it for a second, but realizes that the Black Mist is right. He can't save this guy, and so instead resolves to just see him through to his, to the other side. And after the guy dies and gets into the Black Mist, Yorick then resolves to, like we kind of been talking about, revive the corpse and give it a slap on the ass as it goes into the mist. And hopefully this one will come back with something about Viego or something. I don't know. It's a pretty nebulous goal. I feel like Yorick could learn about setting smart goals, right?
God, he's a planner.
He needs a good project planner to come in and help him. So,
what an awful place to get shipwrecked. Imagine.
Right?
I think it's the worst.
It's gotta be.
of the places to be shipwrecked.
I do, in fairness, I feel like you have to kind of have it coming, right? Like, I think you need to be going to the Shadow Isles to get shipwrecked at the Shadow Isles.
I guess, I don't know. The ocean is a powerful beast, honey.
I suppose,
Could
but I
bring
mean, like,
someone.
who's been to the Shadow Isles? Like Lucian and, other people. People who probably, like,
And
if
they
they got
should've
just
died,
smushed
too.
on a rock. It's like, you were there. You were poking the tiger, I suppose.
You know what the Shadow Isles is. He just went there for Elise. He was after that Elise booty. We know it. Or I guess thorax.
All right, moving on. That story, what do we feel about it?
I don't know. I guess I liked that it wasn't an action piece. It's a lot more quieter, which is kind of appropriate for Yorick. Like I said, there's that bit where he goes to get like bandages and ointments, and the bandages are completely like rotted away into nothing. As he's putting them on, they're just like dissolving, and he's trying to use these ointments that are just completely crusted over. They're it's all worthless. And I guess I kind of like the idea of like either he doesn't realize it, or he just doesn't maybe doesn't get how much time has passed. He doesn't sort of realize until he's doing it in the moment that, this is, you know what I mean?
This
I
is
kinda
my
felt like
wisdom
that.
sorcerer trying to make any medicine checks. I'll try and stabilize.
Sure, something like that, right?
Ooh, whoops. Pushed my arm
this
through
is
that long.
This salve is nothing. I thought that I had a poultice. This is nothing that I'm putting on this guy. This isn't gonna work. This gauze is a single string. This isn't gonna fix this guy.
Yeah. I did like it mentioned that Yorick found him shipwrecked, and he hoisted him over his shoulder and carried him back to his monastery. And then it says he looked at him to figure out what was wrong. He said most of the man's ribs were shattered and one of his lungs had collapsed. Like, that must have felt real fucking good put over your shoulder.
Then he throws him down on a slab of stone, right? He's like, well,
He
let's get you
wasn't gonna
comfortable.
die.
Right.
He definitely is now, bud.
Oh, he's got a concussion now too. That's weird.
What?
That happened.
Humans are fragile. How did this even happen?
Honestly, I kind of like it like that, and like I said, the detail of him kind of makes him comfortable on just this hard ass rock. Is that he's very, it makes him feel very detached from like actual human kindness in this moment.
He hasn't interacted with a human in hundreds of years, so I get it. Also, what the fuck does he do all day? It's really sinking in that he's just been staying, like, hanging around this monastery with no one around for hundreds of years. Bro.
He's been
Maybe
building.
it's like,
Building.
yeah, I suppose he has been building and stuff. That's true.
Like Mordekaiser, he's got his own little secret.
He's got a massive
zone.
ass
Kinda,
graveyard. He's he
peasant.
ran out of stones at some point for the graveyard, so he started taking shit apart to build more graves. He's a busy man.
He's just making graves. Oh, for all the people who died? Like everyone?
Yeah, and then also
Yeah.
bringing bodies back to life. He's got a shit ton of bodies.
Yeah, I was just
To make
wondering where the
graves.
bodies came from.
I mean, it's the Shadow Isles. It's like
I get, like, okay,
they're-
so he's
they're
going
like the
around
orphans
collecting...
of the Shadow Isles. They're everywhere.
Gotta catch
He's
them all.
collecting all the bodies of the people who died during
Corpsey man.
the ruination. Okay.
I think so. Yeah, like that seems to be more what he's kind of spending his time doing. It's just spirit by spirit, trying to put them all
Honestly,
to rest.
I'm fine with that just being his goal. Like, he's just trying
Yeah,
to
me
give
too.
last burial rites to every single person who died in the Blessed Isles. Like, that's really cool. Just trying to find all these
more-
skeletons now and give them a burial.
It's more in line with how he acts. Like,
Yeah.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like the voice kind of. I wish they could spend more time doing anything with the maiden. I know she shows up a little bit in the Alawi story. I would like more of an understanding of what her deal is, because I just like she barely gets any mention at all. Like in this story or the bio, I don't think she's ever actually named. She's only ever called the maiden in the Alawi story, I think, right? Am I
Yeah,
wrong?
she's not named otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's such like a strong part of his. Like, everyone who knows Yorick, knows like the maiden, and that's like the question in my mind is like, what's going on with him, that
He's
maiden?
doing
What's
something.
up? What's the deal?
Yeah.
But it doesn't ever actually feel answered.
True that. Yeah, and I feel like there are points where I feel like they're trying to imply that his cape is like part of the maiden or something like that, and there are parts where that doesn't make sense. So I don't know.
I can hear y'all. I'm back.
Okay.
It's been that kind of night.
But yeah, I would love more information about that too, because like it's a weird relationship that they have, because we find out in the next story and in Rise of the Sentinels that like, despite the fact that Yorick is constantly around the maiden, he is in no way tied to the maiden. Like, he can, when he leaves the island, the maiden can't follow.
Oh.
And he apparently has the power to just give the maiden away. Like, he's in no way forced to deal with this, and he just fucking does. And I would love to know why.
Yeah. When you really lay it out like that, it's like, dude, you can just leave. Like, at any point. You're not married. Just go. Just fucking leave. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's. I wish. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I wish I had more of an answer. I feel the exact same way.
So will he stay immortal if he leaves the Shadow Isles? Can he leave the Shadow Isles and then take the water off? I need the logistics of yours.
My guess is that. God,
in the Alawi story, he does mention that, I think, as he's gotten further away from the mist, that it feels like what does he say? He can hear the water more, like it's more powerful once it's kind of away from the mist. Is that right?
It's like speaking to him almost.
Yeah, so there could be something there. I don't know. That's something I like in the Alawi story, because they always talk about his cape, right? And I think the idea of a cape made of the black mist is cool, I will say. And in the Alawi story, when he goes away from the mist, it makes more sense that he kind of needs the cape kind of with him. It's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like his oxygen tanks or something like that, right? Like, you know, I don't know.
I gotta suck on some souls to...
but it's weird that, like, he would tool around with the black mist just day to day on the Shadow Isles, I guess, or the cape on, I should say, because it's kind of everywhere, you know what I mean?
Makes him feel cool.
It is cool, right? It's super cool. I think that's why they like talking about it so much.
Well, speaking of that story, let's get into the next one in the timeline, Will of the Dead.
Yeah, so do you want to talk about Ruin King at all first? I guess because this is post Ruin King, right? Like,
yeah. So, yeah, I guess a bit of context setting here. At the end of the Ruined King, spoiler alert! If you haven't played the Ruined King,
yeah, this is actual
skip ahead
spoilers.
30 seconds or so. Your party defeats Viego, but you can't kill him. So you stick his soul into a pendant, and he's just kind of his soul's in here, real pissed off, and you're trying to figure out how to, destroy it, basically, because you have no fucking clue. But that's where this story kind of picks up. Misfortune was on your crew to defeat Viego. Alawi was there too. And I think Misfortune, was she the one? I feel like she was kind of the pivotal person in actually trapping the soul, if I'm remembering correctly. That could have also just been a my party thing.
I feel like it was Ari, but I could be wrong. I mean, I think
it just depends on who y'all had at your party, I guess.
Nah, it's like a pre-rendered cutscene. I'm pretty sure it's just as... I don't remember, to be honest with you, who so specifically actually throws the Pokeball or whatever.
Who loses the pendant right away again? I forget.
Oh, we're gonna find out. That's in this story, baby.
Yeah, I guess that's the setup, right? Is that Viego is kind of at this... We're starting the story with Alawi has the pendant, right? It's got Viego in it, and they talk about how it's inside a lockbox, funny enough, like for like the church like fundraiser money or whatever. There's also Viego in there. And it talks about how like Alawi at all times can hear him screaming in there at her. But she's in Bilgewater, and things are kind of in the dumps, just because like Misfortune and Gangplank are just, as for the Roman King too, like Gangplank, is back. Misfortune knows he's back. He had escaped, and there's kind of some issue with Illaoi and Misfortune, in that Illaoi had known that, not told Misfortune, and Sarah finally figured it out. It's a whole big drama thing. The setup right now is that Misfortune and Gangplank are back to fighting over Bilgewater, and Illaoi's not a fan of it, because it's like, they're just back doing the same fucking thing, right? They're just back in their old routines.
This is
not
stagnation.
motion, stagnation. Yeah. But they are trying to figure out what to do with this Viego they got in the lockbox, and she runs into
Viego.
Misfortune. Right, a little pocket Viego. She runs into Misfortune, and Misfortune also mentions that she also can hear Viego screaming at any point. Doesn't have to be near him. She can just hear him across the city, still like screaming at her. But they're going to go see an artifact dealer, specifically one who is part Buru. They bring the lockbox to him, and he opens it up, and it's this locket that's made out of 3 like tears of the goddess. They call it Serpent Amber. And it's of Buru. It's a Buru design, but something that also is from the game is that, the Buru had worked with, like the Blessed Isles, and they see that, there's this symbol that's been kind of etched into it, and it matches the symbol, on the map of the Blessed Isles, and there's the story of this, like, weird, crazy hermit who lives there, and he's, like, the only living person on the Shadow Isles. Maybe we should go talk to him, see if he can help us figure out what's on with this thing, how we can kill this Viego, right? Misfortune doesn't go, but she does give Illaoi a crew to take her, and we meet the captain of this crew. Was his name Raffle? Is that, or like Raffin? It's not the thing is, that's like her second in command.
I know,
it starts
right?
with an R. I didn't write it down.
I didn't write it down either. I'm seeing if it I wrote down a bunch of quotes. I was seeing if any of them had his name in it, but I don't think it did.
We'll call him Ron. Don't worry about it. She runs into Ron. She doesn't like Ron. Ron's kind of like a Weasley kind of guy who is always kind of letting other people.
Can't say Ron Weasel in that. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
He's legit. No, he is actually. He does have red hair. Now that I think about it, yes. I'm pretty sure. She just doesn't like him. He's not. He doesn't kind of. He's got no backbone. He's got no will of his own. He kind of lets people drag him around and do what they want. But he's the only person who knows a safe way onto the Shadow Isles. He takes them there, and they start heading into Yorick's place. On the way, the crew and Illaoi and the captain, who have all disembarked, get attacked by some like bushes and shit. The plants they kill some of the crew. The captain runs off, and as they're kind of making their way to Yorick, the captain shows back up. He's caked in blood and mud, but they're like, whatever, I guess you can come along, it's fine, you're still alive. They run into Yorick. They see that Yorick has a bunch of ghouls. Like, he has a ton of ghouls in his monastery. They're like opening the door for people. They're all building these graves, and Illaoi super not on board with any of it, and eventually meets Yorick and really thinks that everything he's doing is totally wrong. It's like offensive to her sensibilities entirely, and she hates the fact even more that Yorick is just so polite about it all. He's sort of like, oh, okay, come on, welcome to Castle Dracula, etc.
What a wild day for him. He's been here for hundreds of years by himself.
And all these people show up.
Right.
Yeah, he's very nonplussed about it all, frankly. And this is where we see that, yeah, what he's been doing with his army is he's building a massive gravestone, grave site. What? Cemetery.
Cemetery? Okay.
Graveyard, yeah. Whatever you want to call it.
It's a
place where they
stone
put all the dead
statue of
bodies.
Yorick.
She kind of confronts him about the Viego, the Viego thing. Like, hey, we need to find out what to do with this locket. He finds some old manuscript from someone who had worked on it, and it's like, oh, it's written in Buru. He can't read it. She can, and it's like, oh yeah, what you can do is you take this, you put it in one of these furnaces, and it'll burn the spirit out, and it's good. It's like Ghostbusters, right? Light is green, trapped is clean. You know what I mean? So, And Alawi's like, great, where can we find those furnaces? And Yorick's like, well, I disassembled them because I ran out of stones to make graves with. So that's a no-go. But there's a volcano. We could do the volcano. You want to do volcano? So they go to do the volcano. As they're sailing towards the volcano, this is where, like, yeah, Yorick can leave. He can leave the maiden behind. He does. They're kind of sailing out to this. It's another island they're going to drop this thing in a volcano. As as they're sailing out, Alawi is down below deck, and she's like, "Oh, everyone's asleep." And she kind of realizes, "Wait a minute, no one's snoring." And the whole time, the captain has been weird. He's been so obviously like something evil is afoot. He's not. He's shifty. He doesn't want to talk to her. He's he's completely. And she turns around, and there's the captain, and then there's something behind him, and it is some weird like spirit monster called Bartek. It's like an evil ghost, kind of. It's kind of like a humanoid form, but this is described as having like this big like mouth of a toad that's full with teeth, and it's just this weird monster, and it's got control over the captain, and it causes the captain attacks Alawi. They start fighting. Meanwhile, Yorick is up top fighting the rest of the crew because the whole crew is under the thrall of Bartek. And Bartek is working for an even greater master, Thresh, who's still alive, because in the Ruined King, everyone thinks Thresh has been, destroyed and defeated, and this is where we learn that he is indeed not, and they're trying to get Viego back. So Alawi and Yorick are trying to, fight off the crew and the captain. They're all super powerful because they're under this demon monster thing's control. And it eventually kind of comes to a head where Yorick has to sort of summon up the souls of those killed in the Ruination to come forward and do my bidding and stop Bartek. And they do. They do flood out and start beating the shit out of this guy. But he's got a hold of the lockbox, and the ghosts like are so mad that Yorick can't control them, and they sort of like skipping stone him, I guess, across the ocean. Like they describe it as like a cannonball where he's just like, and then you just see in the distance something explodes, and then way further in the distance something explodes again, and the ghosts are just like dragging him off, and it's like, well, shit. I can't control them. They're really mad. He's got the lockbox with Viego in it. But I guess the bright spot of it is that afterwards the captain is dead, but his ghost comes back, and for the first time his ghost shows a little bit of gumption and a willingness to like help the crew that's still savable, etc. And Alawi is like, you know what, maybe Yorick's not so bad. He can I thought he was keeping the dead stagnant here, but here he's changed. He has caused change in the dead, which I didn't think was possible. And if that's possible, then anything's possible, baby. And she's like, well, I'm sure we'll meet again, my friend. I guess I don't know, maybe they will sometime, but not in Rise of the Sentinels. So that's it.
Yeah, I like this story a lot. I think this adds a ton to Alawi and a ton to Yorick. So I enjoyed both of those, and it kind of fills in. I know when I finished The Ruined King, I was super fucking confused. I was like, wait a minute, like they got him. Right? Like, they trapped him in the pendant. Like, how the fuck did the Sentinels of Light even happen? So, I mean, this came out much too late to have answered that question before I had it. But I'm glad that they at least answered it, because I'm sure there's a lot that they're never going to address about Sentinels. So that's one thing they got. Ticket.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? It's hard because it's like, it's frustrating that it's frustrating to like view Ruined King as its own standalone thing, and then to find out, like, imagine you only have that for the context of what's happening in the story, and then the very next thing that happens is like a lot of that work gets kind of undone in this relatively shorter story. It's like, that could be frustrating, but for the most part, I like a lot of what it does with Alawi. I like a lot of how Alawi's handled in Ruined King across the board, and that includes this. She feels very she feels very human in how she's written. I like that she's constantly kind of like trying to understand her faith. She doesn't have all the answers, and she kind of has to come to grips with that, which is nice. It frankly, I think, does a good job of even filling out a little bit of misfortune. I know, like, her being willing to be like ruined was very frustrating. And in this, I think some of that is a little more smoothed over or feels more reasonable from where she's at.
Yeah, I wrote a note here because I know we mentioned she can hear Viego. So she mentions to Alawi, I can hear everything the king says is that amulet. Did I tell you that? Every moment of the day and night, he talks about my mother. I can hear that box whispering from all the way across the city. And, it's not like they destroyed the box or destroyed the amulet or anything. So, I mean, there's no reason to believe that she can't still hear Viego at all times. Like, at all times of the day and night, just whispering in your ear. Like, we know what happened to fucking Renekton when that shit happened, and he was a god. Granted, it took Misfortune a little less time, but, she's just a little old human who's also trying to wage a war. So, I mean, she's got a lot going on in her life right now.
Why is she the only one that can hear him?
I don't know. I almost wish that was something more people ran into. I thought maybe it just might be that she's just just in a vulnerable state. That, maybe that's where he directs his attention because I don't know. That would be a good question to answer in like a Rise of the Sentinels event or something like that. I don't know, man.
That'd be sick.
But I do. Her heel turn is much more understandable now. It's less out of nowhere, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Because she's also kind of been darker throughout the Ruined King and through this. Like, she's not, I feel like, necessarily the misfortune that we get from her short stories. She's much more like, she's bringing people to the shores to execute them. If she thinks they're loyal to Gangplank, she's got dark shit going on in her life right now. So it's not nearly as much of a out of left field as it initially felt.
Yeah, it feels like a nice I don't know. I agree. I don't have much more to say for the Misfortune stuff. I will say.
Now, when asked if he was alive or not, Yorick responds, "That's a private question. I'm a caretaker."
Because she notes that his skin's he's blue tinted. He's all smurfed out a little bit.
Which, clearly he has some strong feelings about this. So he would never commit one way or the other. Until tune in next time for Sentinels of Light lore. Let's see. So let's see. Oh yeah. When Alawi first met Yorick, one of the things she said was, "He has protection of some kind too. Look, the black mist does not attack him." The hermit overheard them. "It does not need to. It has the maiden to watch me." Which might imply that without the maiden, the black mist would attack. But don't worry. We've got some Sentinels of Light stuff coming up for that.
All right. I'm curious to see what... That sounds ominous the way you... Okay. Sure.
Yeah. One of the things I found is, so Yorick mentions that he can't read Buru, so Alawi has to read it. And I just want to say, you've been there centuries, my dude. You couldn't learn how to read Buru, even if you had no way of translating, thousands and thousands of years. You can figure out how to read it at that. There are letters. You can do it.
It's like Groundhog Day. He should have made use of his time there,
It's just digging grapes. Now, one more quote, which will come up again later. Yorick considered it for a moment. "What a curious idea," he murmured. "Doing something because I would enjoy it?" He drew himself up straight and crossed his huge arms on his barrel chest. "And you're right. There is nothing I'd enjoy more than killing Viego." So remember this when we talk about Sentinels of Light scene coming up.
Is it gonna make me angry if I remember it?
Probably.
And then we talk about that scene. Okay.
Also, he has an interesting quote here. It said, even if Viego tries to kill the whole world, well, the dead have their own kind of will. He glanced at Alawi. I've met several in my time who would see him destroyed. They can help us. I want to know who. Who the fuck's he talking about?
Well, like a Ledros, maybe?
Yeah.
It seems like he hasn't left this island, and he's at the monastery, so he's not on the same island where Ledros is. He's also not on the same island that Maokai's in, because we see Maokai in the ruination too. So like, who the fuck is on his island that cares about this?
That's a good question. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
I do love how Yorick and Maokai are the only two like kind of living things here, and they just none of them travel far enough to see each other. Like they have no fucking idea that the other one exists.
You
Just go
know,
like 2 miles northwest.
Maokai's got an excuse at least. You know, he's a tree.
He's a walking tree. Although
He
we
can
can't get a
walk.
ship, I guess.
Yeah. I guess he's made of wood. Maybe he is ship.
Can he float? Yeah. He can just buoy his way over there. What a horrifying visual.
All the little-
Right.
All the little saplings, like tugboats or something, they're all like,
they're all
like trying to drag them along. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now I want to see
Okay,
that.
I like this idea.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
All right, moving on to Rise of the Sentinels, baby.
So excited.
Now, he's mostly left out of this, but the group does run into him on the Shadow Isles. They get to a point and they find out they cannot progress without something to help them.
Okay.
So they meet Yorick. Yorick, they ask if Yorick's alive, which, you know, we know how he feels about this. So Yorick tells them, I am neither living nor dying.
Okay.
So he's in the middle there. And then this is kind of, you know, the Sentinels are like, we need to go further into the Shadow Isles, but we can't because there's mist everywhere. So Yorick's like, don't even worry about it. I fucking got you guys. What is there, like 8, 9 of you? I'll give you each some of this water from this vial around my neck.
Yeah, short story said he barely had any left.
He's like, 1 drop and I'll be dead. So he gives all the Sentinels some of his blessed water. It is very much implied here too that was all of the water.
Oh. He gave him the rest of the water?
So like, at least in his thing. So I don't fucking know.
Well, I think that was the last of it. Well, Maokai drank the rest. Maybe he pisses it out sometimes.
Maokai does have the
Sure,
ability to
right.
give some, at least at the time of the Ruined King. I don't know how much, but
True.
I think you say Maokai does have the ability to piss.
He does have the ability to piss out blessed water. It's kind of his thing.
and then we find out that the Maiden of the Mist is a fetter. It's got a piece of Isolde's soul in it. So Yorick's like, hey, you're going to need this. And just gives him the Maiden of the Mist. And the
They're,
Maiden's like,
walking away, like, "Hey,
really?
kid."
You're going to fucking just give me away? And he's like, yeah, we're good.
Take my wife. No, really. Take her.
Also, they're like, hey, you've got a bone to pick with Viego, don't you? Why don't you come with us? Help us kill Viego. And, you know, he does have a bone to pick with Viego, right? Not only that, he's been building an army of corpses just for this moment. So he decides, no, I'm good. I've got my own thing going on here, so...
Riot doesn't want to give me a Sentinels of light skin. So I must remain.
I'm not
I wish you
attractive
just said
in
it.
these colors.
No one buys my skins because I'm hideous.
God, I really
It's
wish
just
he was
ironic
just
because
like
he
that.
has an arc-like skin, which is basically the Sentinel.
Oh my
color
god,
scheme
you're
anyway.
right.
Right.
Just rename that or something.
Sure, right?
That's okay.
Bargain bin Sentinels, yeah.
Bargain bin. So we have Sentinels at home.
Sentinels of, all right. Oh, man. That's so silly. I don't know, man. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not like in love with Yorick or anything. I don't want to like kiss him on the lips or anything like that. You know what I mean? That'd be crazy.
Blue lips. That'd be crazy. Who even thinks about that?
Who thinks about that, right? But this is a real fucking shame. I just want to I do want to make it clear that it is a real fucking shame how he was handled in this whole event. You know, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I like Yorick more than I thought I would, but I think, like I said earlier, I think I would just prefer him being a gravedigger who's trying to put to rest all of these lost souls in the Shadow Isles. I think that's great and unique, and I would have been fine with just that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they always gotta tie everyone to fucking Viego.
Let me tell you, it wouldn't have pissed off our Yorick mains nearly as much as... Every single time there was a new piece of media released, too, you could see the hype, right? Like, Sentinels came out, and it was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And then Ruined King came out, and they're like, oh, okay, here we go. Finally. Didn't show up in Ruined King. Like, what the fuck? Shows up in Ruination. Briefly.
Kind of. I don't think I fucking realized that was him, by the way, guys. I'm gonna be honest.
We don't want to be too obvious. You know, we're always constantly dropping Yorick and everything. Let's tone it down a little bit.
We've got the pale lady, the shovel guy. You know, sometimes you just don't want to name names.
The shoveler, man. More mystery men. I'm telling you.
Still haven't seen it. I'm sorry.
After we watch Return to Oz, Mystery Men's next. Now, Yorick, rather, also shows up in a few places. He shows up in The Meaning of Misery. Vex is playing a game with her spirit friends, and the roles in the game, one of them is the Gravedigger.
Vex is also alive in the Shadow Isles. That's true. There's 3 people just kind of wandering around, not running. Vex doesn't want to run into them. Maybe she might think Yorick's kind of cool, actually.
Right? She can bring corpses back.
Yeah, I think she would find that
his dead wife.
Yeah, he doesn't care about his dead wife at all.
And she seems to be, we talk about maybe Yorick doesn't know about Maokai, Maokai doesn't know about Yorick. Vex clearly knows about Yorick. Yeah,
she knows about Yorick.
Is it, like, him specifically, the Gravedigger, or just Gravedigger as a... Because that is a thing that exists. It's not just
That's true. Yorick's not the only Gravedigger.
He's the only Gravedigger right now.
He is he is around there anyway.
And it's not like Vex has a lot of context for grave digging anyway, because Yordles are immortal.
That's you know what? You're absolutely right. Grave? What is... Yeah.
He also shows up in the Princeling's Lament, which was the big poem.
That's right.
We talked about after Hecarim kills all of the Princeling's knights, he comes across Yorick, also fighting spirits. The two fight their enemies together, back to back, until they're victorious. Then he asks Yorick to give him the scoop. Like, hey, the fuck is this place? What's going on with the Ruination? Answer some questions. And Yorick just spills out the whole Ruination story to him.
Sorry, I was thinking scoop, like with his spade.
Scoop. And it's just Hecarim's shit. He's just wandering around following Hecarim.
But yeah, that's canon.
Canon. Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yorick's got some cannons.
That's true, man.
I'm so glad that you were
flexing off.
Yeah, you were off camera so much that they couldn't see a single. They just saw you go.
I like it. There could be anything going on out of frame.
Certainly not guns.
The cannons, honey.
Jeez, I'm crow.
Little pistols.
Damn. Don't make fun of my flintlocks. You want to learn about some old Yorick?
Yes. Was he a gravedigger? Has anybody else had the song Gravedigger by Dave Matthews Band in their head this whole time?
No.
Okay, it's just me.
No.
So Yorick and the Mori family, because that is his full name, Yorick Mori. Still, even post-remake.
Does he have his own show?
The Yorick Mori Povich show.
You're not the spirit.
I was looking for it.
So Yorick and the Mori family, they used to help spirits ascend to different tiers. So the way spirits, it seems like, worked here is kind of like reincarnation a bit, minus the reincarnation bit. Like, they ascend to different levels of spirits while still being spirits.
Okay.
But then I guess the goal is once you get to the highest level,
sounds like
you
Beetlejuice
pass on.
a little bit.
Yeah, the whole thing reads like that. He's like an overworked like civil servant in this, as I recall.
Yeah. So the shovel that he does have has been passed down for generations of Moris.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Yorick never had a child. So when he died, so did the Mori line.
Yorick didn't fuck.
Yorick did not fuck. Then, in true fucking Palpatine fashion, somehow he came back. In the Shadow Isles, specifically. Not quite dead, not quite alive, with his shovel. And he found he could continue his work there. So, yeah. But he's a spirit now, right? So
Sure.
he's got to go through the ascension himself. But the only way he can do that is by saving a certain amount of souls. How many souls? We don't know, and he doesn't know. So he just keeps saving them, hoping that one day it'll just happen. But he does this for, I think they say centuries, before finally being like, okay, I've saved a lot of fucking souls. Like, let me go back to my body and see if, like, maybe something's fucked up. I'll check it out. Maybe there's some clue there that could help me ascend. So he goes...
Could you imagine if like you had to be buried a certain way and like he didn't get credit for any of those
Oh,
those
he has to
souls?
start all over.
His save got reset.
Yeah, I was gonna say
His
his fucking little brother ripped the game out.
So he goes to his grave, kind of. The thing is, he doesn't know where the hell it is. There's no trace of it left. Not only is there no trace, like, he had a family grave plot, basically, where all the Yoris, or all the Moris were buried. He can't find any of that shit. So not only can he not find his own grave, he can't find his family's grave, and he realizes, like, no one remembers the Moris anymore. Like, I fucked up, and now, like, the name doesn't even exist anymore. They didn't pass anything on. So, he decides he's going to join the League to bring pride back to the name he had let be forgotten.
Oh, I forgot that that's where that was going to go. I thought this was going to get really interesting. Like somebody erased them from existence intentionally. I had to figure out who did it. Like what happened to their graves.
Well, it's been centuries, so they just kind of
I mean,
disrepair.
people usually still leave graves alone. I don't know.
I assume it's like, you know, they built the subdivision over it, but they didn't move the bodies, right? Like, you know.
No, they started doing the double body thing. They ran out of space in the cemetery.
And that explains his old quote, "The world will remember Yorick Mori." That's old Yorick.
God, old Yorick. You had to look
He
about
dug
him.
graves.
Yeah, right.
And like, I mean, this is as good a time as any to fucking talk about what old Yorick used to. So we all know the Yorick of today, kind of, except when we get him in A-Ram,
Sure,
and then we
right.
don't know the
Yeah.
Yorick of today
Cannot
at all.
fucking figure out how to get those spirits out of the goddamn
He got that
bridge.
maiden. He does those things. You know, the wall.
Original Yorick had 3 ghouls that he would summon, which were each named after horsemen of the apocalypse.
Oh yeah.
So one of them would do like an AoE slow, and he could cast it from a distance. One of them was an on hit, and it would give him a speed boost when he did it. And one of them was a lifesteal hit. And he could have all 3 out at the same time. They didn't last very long. Like it was very short.
I think wasn't his passive that the more were active, he got like some sort of stat
got, like, bonus
increase
stats,
or something like that.
Yeah. And then his ult, he could cast on himself or an ally, and it would create a clone of them temporarily, so he could fight with a clone of himself, like just 2 people versus an enemy or something like that. And then
Reclone like the 80 carry because they would just auto attack, right?
yeah, and like if the actual AD carry or whoever he cloned died while that was still active, then they could kind of take over the clone temporarily until it timed out.
Yeah. God, I forgot
Yeah.
about that. I played Yorick a little bit here and there in those early days.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, with anything Ghost related, a lot of bugs with that shit.
Yeah.
But
Massive bug. I remember it was either him or Zyra. One of them caused a massive performance hit because one of them would also be like rendering all of the assets for the other underneath the map for some reason. I don't remember, for some reason there was something fucked with those two.
I do remember that. You would get all those error messages pop up in chat.
Yeah, I remember that.
You just be playing and it'd be like, error, Zyra plant 01 dot. Like, what the fuck is this?
I also remember Yorick as being very often refunded. That's what he sticks out in my mind as being. Maybe that's not true. Maybe that's just how it felt. But it felt like Yorick was the one I saw that refunded the most, or getting requested for refunds the most. I don't know.
Believe it.
Maybe it's anecdotal.
You want to?
He has a judgment, right?
Oh, does he?
Oh, he does?
He does have a judgment. Does he have? I saw he was in the Journal of Justice, but I could not find the article. I did a lot of different searching, and I couldn't find him actually mentioned or mention of a gravedigger or a monk. So I don't know.
No,
he does have a judgment.
Yeah, I missed it. So
Sure,
hit us with the judgment, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So the judgment is it's because the thing is that like he has only kind of heard of the League of Legends. He kind of vaguely knows what it is. So he sort of shows up, and apparently they do the judgments in a mountain. I don't know. He just shows up at this like base of this mountain where the judgments happen, and he gets in there, and it's a lot like a nightmare where he sees a corpse, and he's like, well, whatever, I guess I'll just take care of this thing. And he starts putting it into an open grave. And as he's doing it, he's starting to feel things. He kind of talks about how he doesn't feel things anymore. And for all of a sudden, for some reason, he's starting to like feel various things. And he feels like some weird connection to this corpse. And he's like, I kind of want to keep doing this particular burial forever. And I kind of want to be done with it as quickly as possible. So I guess I'll just finish it up. And he kind of is arranging it. And as he's doing it, he goes to get his spade, and he doesn't have it, and it's like the only he's never been without it before. And it, like I said, it kind of becomes like a nightmare where he's trying to grab it, and he kind of can't. And as he's kind of looking down into the grave, he can see that like dirt's starting to pile in, and he kind of realizes that it's his corpse, and it's been so long since he died, he didn't even really recognize himself for what he looked like, and more dirt and rubble is piling in, and he's trying to claw his way out before finally he's sort of in front of like, you know, the summoner, and the summoner's like, how does it feel to expose your mind? You're always like, what the fuck's going on? What's happening? Because he doesn't know what any of this is. They're like, it's an illusion. Look, how does it feel to expose your mind, dude? What do you want to join the league?
Be cool.
Right.
I didn't even mean to come here. I was looking for the Burger King.
And I think it's, and then he's sort of like, well, you know, what is it that he says? He's interested in the kind of weird undeath thing they do in the league. Because remember, like in old league, you die in game and you come back, and you have revive as a summoner spell. So he's like interested in that, and they're like, okay, we'll let you in, but you got to share some stuff with us. He's like, well, I don't know, I can't remember my own corpse. I don't remember anybody. Like, what do you want? And he's like, no, tell us about the Shadow Isles. So it kind of hints that the summoners have some secret interest in the Shadow Isles that Yorick is going to be complicit in, so he can be in the league. I don't know. I don't think that ever gets any follow up in any way. So
What? They didn't follow up on the Yorick thread that they set up?
You know, with Yorick, they're always closing those loops, and this was just one that they missed, right? You know? But I like this judgment too. I've been liking the judgments as we've been reading them, and this was one I also liked. I like the way, like I said, it really comes off like a bad dream in the way it's written.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Now he's part of 5AUs, which, you
Doesn't
know,
have a lot of skins.
he doesn't
for,
have a lot, but
Being such an old champ.
first up we got Eclipse. This story of a cursed queen and the wretched followers of her order makes unpleasant bedside banter for parents and their children, but lessons last longer when the tale is gripped in shadow, which swirls in dreams and shapes the souls of impressionable youth. The nightmare are just nightmares after all, or so the adults pray.
I don't think I've seen this new splash. I really like it. Like,
Ooh, I have-
Yeah.
new from when they... But I like how it looks like a storybook. On
Yeah,
the
I like
edges.
all of those.
Yeah.
All the Eclipse ones are like that. And this is Undertaker Yorick. The Undertaker is a wretched creature, cursed to shoulder every secret his city has buried. These old, unhappy things tear constantly at his mind, which is itself infected by his queen's unending ambition. I guess the queen's kind of his own maiden in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've got Arclight. Once each millennium, an ancient godlike entity descends from the heavens, choosing worthy warriors to be his will incarnate. These beings are the Arclight, immortal agents of the light divine. This is Arclight Yorick. The once great King Yorick, given the gifts of power and immortality in an age long past, left his mighty kingdom to enforce the will of the divine. Hundreds of years later, he returned, his lands naught but dust and ruins, and in his sorrow he was consumed by madness. This is like, what if Yorick was Viego?
It's what we all wonder.
We got cats versus dogs. The oldest rivalry the world has ever known. Man's best friend pitted against the internet's greatest heroes. Only one faction will emerge victorious from the gnawing maw of battle between cats and dogs. Hopefully they don't get their fur too dirty. The only thing worse than losing is bath time. Am I right? And this one's Meowrick. A cat fancier hailing from the forsaken isles of a Pet Supreme superstore. Yorick. Let me just say Isles, by the way, in case you didn't gather. Spelled A-I-S-L-E-S.
Forsaken Isles. I can't.
That's very funny.
Oh, that's so good. This is such a good AU.
Yorick does not have any unresolved issues involving or related to cats. Yorick is a perfectly normal gentleman, dressed as a cat, surrounded by cats, who can call upon the esoteric powers of a giant floating cat. You know, normal gentleman stuff.
This is the cat lady I want to be.
And there's a cinematic for this, called Cats vs. Dogs.
Whoa.
This is the 2019 Summoner Sweeties Pet Show. It's on, baby. So we're gonna see all of the skins from this AU do a little pageant. Now, this is their feedback about Yorick. Wow, that guy's in a cat suit. Now he comes riding out on a Roomba. Which I feel like I haven't played this skin. I feel like that must be his dashing animation.
Oh, man.
Because for the most part,
pretty
these
funny.
are all just like in-game animations.
Someone's got to play Yorick next time we play League so we could see this. Not me.
Not it.
Someone else. Yeah, not it.
We don't get to see whether the dogs or cats win, but we can assume it was the cats with Yorick on their side.
And Rengar.
If it fits, it sits. Next up, we got Battlecast. The glorious revolution is here, assembling an army of machines with living brains. Victor marches against the combined forces of his enemies, with only a scrappy human-led resistance keeping him from total world domination.
I think John misses DMing. He doesn't get to do his voice.
I gotta get this out.
Yeah.
This is Resistance Yorick. With the rise of the Battlecast armies, Yorick found to his horror that the living minds Victor fused to his machines bound the souls of his victims to their machine bodies. Harnessing his ability to command the dead, Yorick now raises destroyed and defeated Battlecast husks in an attempt to free all these souls from their machine prisons.
Okay, so this is Yorick, but he's a robot. Okay, or
Well, he's
no,
not a
like, well,
robot.
Yeah, right. But
You
robots.
know,
Yeah, okay.
he's
yeah,
freeing
yeah.
the souls of robots.
Get it fucking right. Okay, I'm sorry.
I think I realized he has Spirit Blossom.
Yeah, he's got a Spirit Blossom skin. The Spirit Blossom Festival is an ancient and celebrated time in Ionia. When the door to the spirit world is opened, the dead return to their loved ones, and spirits of all manner turn their eyes towards the living. From the benevolent Kanmai to the obsessive Akana, their stories play out again and again like shadows on a paper lantern. And this is Spirit Blossom Yorick. The grove he called home burnt to ashes before his very eyes. While another retreated into solitude, Yorick allowed the rage to consume him. The flowers and trees that bloom in the spirit of ruin's wake are haunting, the gardeners that tend to them, howling creatures of the night. Ow! That's right.
Thank you.
So yeah, he is the spirit of ruin.
Gotcha. Okay.
And now the big one.
Yes.
Riot Records, Pentakill. In a world where heavy metal reigns supreme, Pentakill are the undisputed masters of melting the face right off your head. 6 members, 2 pentaplatinum albums, and the chrome-fisted fury of the gods themselves. It's time to rock.
Damn.
This is Pentakill Yorick. Yorick was resurrected with the undying soul of heavy metal inside him for the singular purpose of joining Pentakill and melting faces with his bass guitar. He can also summon an army of roadie ghouls, a handy trick for any seasoned stage performer. And this is how he joined the band. Pentakill Yorick spent his early years on the Shadow Isles torturing ghouls and ghosts with his pounding bass playing. But as the years passed by, the ghouls started to enjoy the head-rattling virtuoso's playing. Eventually, they formed Yorick's hardcore fan base and followed him throughout the Shadow Isles, earning him the nickname Brown Note. Thanks to their muddy coloration, of course.
Right.
After ferrying Karthus back to Valoran, Yorick decided to join him and create a fucking awesome band, and unleashed their terrifying symphony on the unsuspected living masses. And as we all obviously remember from the Pentakill storyline, after the band fully formed the first time, they played a show in Freljord, accidentally brought down a mountain. It was a whole thing, so they disbanded for a while, laid low. So this is how he joined for the second album. The hooded and hunched figure of Yorick headed south from the bloody carnage of the Freljord and did not stop until he reached the sun-bleached wastes of Shurima. Sunlight was something new to Yorick, something he avoided for fear of people recoiling from a face not even a mother could love. He helped excavate the tombs of long-dead emperors, which allowed him to spend a great deal of time in the darkness underground, something his fellow diggers certainly appreciated. His unique bass was the perfect tool to crush the soft rock of Shurima, but often had the side effect of liquefying the sand, to a degree where many of the workers excavating the tombs were buried alive. To many of these buried souls, this was preferable to enduring another moment of conversation with a man who could literally bore rock. After being forcibly...
Why they got that dig at him? I don't know.
The dig at him? They really hate him in this AU.
Right. After being forcibly ejected from dig sites all across Shurima and months spent deep underground with long-dead princes, Yorick decided that he too desired to be buried in the sands. He dug deep into the bedrock to craft his own shadowed mausoleum, and there he interred himself within a lightless tomb, intending to pass the eons in splendid isolation. And so Yorick slept beneath the desert, until Karthus and Kale pried open his tomb. The two singers did nothing to disabuse Yorick of the idea that eons had passed, and that all who desired him dead were, themselves, now dead. And there's a few cinematics. First one's Mortal Reminder, which is the one where Pentakill plays in Bandle City. For Yorick's part of this, Yorick pops out of a grave to steal a Yordle's hat, and then he punches it out so it becomes a slash hat. Then he slams the note so hard it makes a bunch of Yordles start rocking out.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Nice. It's good he didn't melt their faces. He just made them enjoy the music. Super
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He seems like the nicest one here. I mean, he doesn't have
He just
a
wants to be left
dump
alone.
truck, but
Yeah. As far
I
as
like
we
that
know.
They're 50 first dates him, and that like they can't let him see a newspaper, right? Because otherwise he'll realize that it hasn't been 100 eons or whatever. It's just been like a week. I don't know how long he was in that tomb.
that's great.
Then we got Lost Chapter, which is the interactive concert experience, which is super fucking cool. Yorick has traded in his Slash hat for a Kung Lao hat. So he's a hat guy now. It's kind of his thing.
This is me now.
I wanted to be Tomb Guy, but you fucking dug me up, so now you get this. Y'all want to hear some fun facts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
So Yorick is voiced by Daniel Riordan in League of Legends and the Ruination audiobook.
Oh my god, I don't remember. I did listen to the audiobook. Yeah.
His full name, like we mentioned, is Yorick Mori still. Even though it's never referenced in his current lore, it's still that. Yorick's cape is made of thousands of undead souls. It is made from the mist and is always trying to possess him. The maiden, Yorick's companion, is the culmination of these souls, held together by a fragment of Isolde's soul. Yorick's relationship with it has been described by Ride employees as 60% symbiotic, 40% parasitic.
Okay. That makes more sense than I thought. He was like, you know, some of the souls he likes were like being his cape. And it's like, imagine that's your duty. Like when you're serving Yorick, you're like, yeah, I don't know, I'm the lower left quadrant cape. It's okay.
We get good benefits, you know.
Yeah.
I've been promised a promotion to upper right, so
Just
I
praying.
just put my nose to the grindstone.
Like a mouse to feed.
While Yorick does use the undead souls to do his bidding, he does not see himself as having enslaved them, as he believes that he gives them some agency in what they do.
Maybe.
Maybe? Yorick can always see both lamb and wolf, even though he's not truly dead. Yorick is named after the deceased court jester from Hamlet by William Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Ooh, it's been a while.
Alas, Yorick,
Yeah.
which they reference that in one of his quotes.
Do they still do that in his current ones, or is that one of his old ones?
It's a good question. I do not know the answer to that.
You know, I don't play enough Yorick.
His surname, Mori, references the Latin phrase memento mori, which means be mindful of dying. Which is befitting his association with death and the lost souls.
When you say it like that, it's like a wet floor sign. Like, careful, death, caution.
They sue me if I don't warn them.
Be mindful, right? Yeah.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna get you.
I know, shut up.
Due to David Freak Turley being delayed on a flight back from DreamHack, Sweden, Yorick became the first champion to be released before his champion spotlight was.
Yeah. They couldn't get anyone else to do it. They couldn't.
I like how you use Freak's full Christian name.
Yeah, you know. Let's see. One of his scrapped narrative directions was that he was the ruined king, but he had something similar to amnesia and was not aware of it. And Arclight is a nod to this.
Oh, shit.
Interesting.
Could you imagine that's what Hot Cross Buns turned into? It's just Yorick instead.
Alawi could
wishes.
break that in half.
He's a big
Oh,
loaf.
well, Alawi could break Viego in half for sure.
You can tear him apart like crazy bread.
Nom, 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 nom.
Yeah, those are my fun Yorick facts.
Nice. Any final thoughts on Yorick?
Is there nothing the Sentinels can't ruin for us?
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're not solely responsible. A lot of things have ruined Yorick's potential.
Poor Yorick.
They were just one of them.
Oh, sorry, everybody. That was Yorick. Thank you for listening. We have a Twitch, twitch.tv/loreheads. John streams on Saturdays. He does TFT and ARMs with viewers, and I do some Riff games on Tuesdays and Fridays. Yeah. We have a YouTube. You want to see some clips of our beautiful faces. You want to watch John flex? That was pretty good. It looked good. Yes. Oh my god. Yeah, you want to see that special treat? Head on over to our YouTube. We also have a Discord. You want to find some people to play League with, chat, hang out, post weird memes? Please join our Discord. And we have a Patreon. Thank you so much to all of our patrons.
But a very special thank you to our Madarda tier patrons, Mr. Dead and King of Hearts. If you were a spirit on the Shadow Isles and I was Yorick, I would not send you into the Black Mists to do scouting information for you. I would set up a PlayStation and let you chill in my monastery.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Please be sure to join us next week as we talk about the magical cat, Yumi.